Hey, it's Jenny Casson. I wanted to talk about what is extractive investing and, what does it mean? How can you avoid having investments that are extractive? Um, if you don't know me, I am a lawyer and coach. I've been working in the world of investing for mission-driven entrepreneurs and businesses and helping investors move their money into things that make positive impacts in the world. So, what is extractive investing? So, one way you can look at extractive investing is it literally extracts money out of our communities. Um, so let's say you live in a certain community, let's say Baltimore, for example, and you happen to be lucky enough to have a portfolio of investments. So you have money invested somewhere, maybe through your retirement account or just an account that you've created, maybe on what is it called? I can't think of the name. Where you manage your account. E-Trade is one example. And so you have your money invested, and so it's money that you've earned in your own community. And generally speaking, you're probably sending that money out of your community into investments outside of Baltimore. Almost all investments that are available through a retirement account or kind of in the mainstream set of investments that are available to you are going to be taking money out of your community. You're going to be sending your investment dollars right out of your community. And, usually your money is going to be invested in public companies that are big, giant companies that have huge footprints, doing things all over the globe, and often doing things that aren't that great for many of us. So that's one way you could think about extraction. Another way you could think about extraction is when you think about the experience of someone who is receiving investment. So let's say there's someone in your community in Baltimore that wants to start a business. Maybe it's like a bakery, and they are really amazing bakers, and they need to raise some money to open their business because they just don't have enough cash to pay for all those startup costs. And so they're going to borrow money or raise money from maybe equity investors, or somehow they're going to try to get money from investors. And oftentimes, the cost of capital to a business like that is very high because what they're doing is perceived as high risk. So the investors want a really high return in exchange for taking the risk. And then just, the often the mainstream sources of money, if like for a bank, for example, they raise money from people who put money into their bank, and then they have to make their cut, and so they add on to that cost, and then they pass that on to the investor. So there's many layers of people who have to get paid. So the cost of capital for someone who's trying to raise money can be considered extractive because it's taking money out of that entrepreneur's pocket to pay investors, and therefore they're not able to do as much in their community, maybe not able to pay their workers as well, or do those special things that they would really like to do in their community. So those are kind of two ways to think about what an extractive investment might mean. So what is a non-extractive investment? So it's obviously the opposite. It's an investment where you're taking, if you're an investor or you have money invested somewhere, you're taking some portion of that money, maybe 100%, maybe 2%, and you're investing it in your own geographical community. So if you live in Baltimore, you're investing it in Baltimore businesses or real estate or some kind of initiative that's going to pay you a financial return, but the money is not leaving the community. So it's not being extracted out of the community. And then from the perspective of the entrepreneur, non-extractive investing would be investing that pays a reasonable return to investors, but it doesn't have a ton of extra costs because of all the middlemen and the paperwork and the administrative cost, and maybe also because people might not look at your business and think, oh, that's a really high risk business, so I have to make a super high return. Maybe because they know you, they live in the same neighborhood where your business is. They're like, you know what? I think this business is going to do well. So I don't think it's such a high risk. So I don't need such a high return. So those are some ways that we can make non-extractive investments. And of course, it's so beneficial when we do that because more of the money stays in our own community, creates jobs, creates wealth, allows people to have that extra money to do good things in the community. It increases the tax base, etc. All that money recirculating in the economy instead of getting extracted out and going to investors who maybe aren't even in the community or being used by businesses that aren't in the community. So this is what we're working to grow at the Mulberry. 15 West Mulberry Street is the building that we're working on renovating, and it will be home to a place where we will help entrepreneurs and investors learn about how to keep their investments local, how to make investments that benefit everybody, take all stakeholders into account, not just putting the investors ahead of everyone else, but really using investment capital to make our communities better. And of course, every single investor needs to decide what's best for them. And so we'll be helping people do a better job of making those decisions for themselves. So that's what we're building at the Mulberry. The Mulberry has over 30 investors right now. Many of them live in Baltimore. It's going to be in a building that is owned by the community, and we are currently raising more money from the community using a crowdfunding campaign, and we're going to share the link to how you can invest. It's open to everybody. Anybody can invest in this building. You'll be an investor in the building, sharing in the profits from the operations of the building. And the minimum is very low. And so no matter whether you're super wealthy or not so wealthy, this is a way you can invest in local real estate in your own community that is not just working to make a profit, but also working to do good in the community by growing the community investing movement and keeping more dollars local. So thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on what the idea of extractive investing versus community investing, and what we might call regenerative and non-extractive investing, which is when you invest in your own community and you do it in a way that benefits everybody. Thank you. Bye.